What if I told you that Bruce Lee wasn't born powerful? That the man who became the world's most iconic martial artist started as a weak, nearsighted child who lost street fights? That he was rejected, broken, and counted out multiple times before becoming a legend? Bruce Lee's story isn't about never falling. It's about transforming every single time he fell. And today, you'll learn exactly how he did it. Welcome back to Be Water Philosophy. If you've been following this series, you know Bruce Lee's teachings go far beyond martial arts. We've explored being like water, focusing like the one-inch punch, conquering your inner enemy, and emptying your cup. Today, we're diving into perhaps the most important principle of all, transformation. Because Bruce Lee didn't just change once, he transformed himself completely 3 different times. And each transformation holds a secret that can revolutionize your own life. Hong Kong, 1940s. A small frail boy with thick glasses gets cornered in a back alley. He's been running from gang members, but there's nowhere left to run. They push him. He falls. They laugh. This boy was Bruce Lee, and in that moment, lying in the dirt, something inside him broke, but not in the way you might think. Most people don't know this, but young Bruce Lee was physically weak. He had poor eyesight, was underweight, and got bullied constantly. His father was a famous opera star, which made Bruce a target. Other kids saw him as privileged, soft, an easy mark. That beating in the alley was a turning point, but Bruce didn't become strong through anger or revenge. He discovered something more powerful, the principle of transformation. He approached his father and said, "Teach me to fight." His father introduced him to Master Yip Man, who taught Wing Chun. But here's what's important. Bruce didn't just learn techniques. He learned how to transform weakness into study material. Every time he got hit, he asked, "Why did that work?" Every time he failed, he analyzed, "What can I learn?" He turned his poor eyesight into an advantage by developing incredibly sensitive touch reflexes. He turned his small frame into an asset by focusing on speed rather than power. This is the first transformation principle. Don't fight your weaknesses. Study them, understand them, and transmute them into different strengths. Within 5 years, that weak, bullied child had become one of Hong Kong's most formidable young fighters. But this was just the beginning. Fast forward to 1964, Oakland, California. Bruce Lee, now in his 20s, faces Wong Jack Man in a private challenge match. On paper, Bruce should dominate easily. He's been training for years. He's fast. He's skilled. But the fight goes wrong. Bruce wins, but barely. He's exhausted, frustrated, and deeply shaken. This should have been easy. That night, Bruce Lee sits in his apartment, staring at his hands, and he realizes something devastating. He has become rigid. He had transformed from a weak child into a strong martial artist, yes, but in doing so, he had frozen himself into Wing Chun's forms and patterns. He had become ice, solid, yes, strong, yes, but inflexible, unable to adapt. When Wong Jack Man used unexpected movements, Bruce had struggled because he was locked into his training's rigid patterns. This moment triggered Bruce Lee's second transformation. He didn't just modify his Wing Chun, he began to question everything he had been taught. This was the birth of Jeet Kune Do. But more importantly, it was Bruce Lee's transformation from ice into water. He started training with boxers, studying fencing, analyzing wrestlers, learning from anyone who had something to teach. His Wing Chun teachers were horrified. "You're betraying the tradition," they said. But Bruce understood something they didn't. True strength isn't holding one form. It's the ability to change forms. He would spend hours testing techniques against different opponents. If something didn't work, he discarded it immediately, no matter how much time he'd invested in learning it. If something worked, he incorporated it, regardless of which martial art it came from. His notebooks from this period are fascinating. Page after page of "This works against boxer stance. This fails against wrestlers. Wing Chun elbow position, too rigid, adjust 15 degrees. He was literally documenting his transformation from solid ice into flowing water. He became formless, adaptable, able to respond to any situation with the perfect technique because he wasn't locked into any one approach. This is the second transformation principle. Whatever got you here won't get you there. Be willing to melt everything you've become and reform into what you need to be next. But Bruce Lee's biggest transformation was still to come. 1971. Bruce Lee sits in his small Los Angeles apartment. He's just been passed over for the lead role in Kung Fu. a TV series based on his own concept. The role went to David Carradine, a white actor who knew nothing about martial arts. Bruce had transformed from a weak child into a master martial artist. He had transformed from a rigid traditionalist into an innovative philosopher. But now, he faced his biggest challenge. He was trapped. Hollywood wouldn't cast an Asian man as a leading hero. His dreams seemed impossible. Many people would have given up. Many would have become bitter. But Bruce Lee understood the third principle of transformation. When you can't change the form, change the state entirely. Water, when heated enough, doesn't just flow differently. It transforms into something completely new. Vapor. It rises. It transcends the limitations of its previous form. Bruce stopped trying to fit into Hollywood's container. Instead, he returned to Hong Kong and made The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, films that became massive hits across Asia. He proved his value so undeniably that Hollywood had no choice but to come to him. But here's what most people miss about this transformation. Bruce didn't just become a successful actor, he transformed the entire industry. Before Bruce Lee, Asian actors in Hollywood were stereotypes, villains, servants, comic relief. Bruce Lee didn't just break through that ceiling, he vaporized it. When Enter the Dragon was released in 1973, it wasn't just a martial arts movie. It was the first Hollywood film to feature an Asian man as a legitimate hero, philosopher, and leading man. Bruce Lee had transformed not just himself, but the possibilities for everyone who came after him. This is the third transformation principle. When the world won't make space for who you want to become, don't shrink yourself. Expand so powerfully that the world has to make space. Now, let's talk about how you apply these transformation principles in your own life. Transformation isn't about becoming a completely different person. Water doesn't stop being water when it becomes ice or vapor. It's still H2O. The molecular structure remains the same, only the form changes. You are the same at your core. Your values, your essence, your potential, these don't change, but the forms you take, the roles you play, the skills you express, these must constantly transform. Here's how Bruce Lee approached transformation systematically. First, recognize when you've become ice. Ice is when you've solidified into patterns that no longer serve you. Maybe you've mastered a job and now you're just going through the motions. Maybe you've settled into a relationship dynamic that feels safe but stagnant. Signs you've become ice. You feel stuck or bored. You're repeating the same patterns, expecting different results. You're defending how things have always been done. You're afraid of change because you don't know who you'd be without your current form. Second, apply heat. Heat is discomfort, challenge, new information, failure. Bruce Lee deliberately sought out heat. He would fight people from different styles specifically to find his weaknesses. He would read philosophy books that challenged his worldview. You need to do the same. If you want to transform, seek feedback that makes you uncomfortable. Try things you're bad at. Put yourself in situations where your usual approaches don't work. Question your strongest beliefs. Third, flow into new forms. Once you've melted your rigid patterns, you need to actively shape yourself into something new. Water flows toward a destination, taking the shape of whatever channels it through. Bruce Lee had clear intentions for each transformation, from weak to strong. I will never be helpless again. From rigid to flexible. I will be able to handle any opponent. From limited to transcendent. I will change what's possible. What's your intention? Not just what you want to escape from, but what you want to flow toward. Fourth, know when to become vapor. Sometimes transformation isn't about changing your form, it's about changing your state entirely, rising above the limitations of the game you've been playing. Bruce Lee could have stayed in Hong Kong making movies. He was successful there, but he transformed into something bigger, a global icon, a philosopher, a bridge between cultures. Where in your life are you playing too small? Where do you need to not just change form, but transcend to an entirely different level? Let me give you a specific practice Bruce Lee used that you can start today. The 3 States Journal. Every evening, Bruce would review his day through the lens of ice, water, and vapor. Ice moments. Where was I rigid today? Where did I resist change or defend old patterns? Maybe you had an argument and kept repeating the same response even though it wasn't working. Write it down. Water moments. Where did I adapt today? Where did I flow around obstacles? Maybe a project didn't go as planned, but you pivoted smoothly. Acknowledge these moments. Vapor moments. Where did I transcend limitations today? Where did I rise above the usual game? These are rarer. Maybe you had an insight that reframed a problem. Maybe you acted from a higher version of yourself. The goal isn't to judge yourself. The goal is to become aware of which state you're in and consciously choose transformations. Bruce Lee's transformation wasn't one dramatic moment. It was thousands of small daily choices to melt rigidity, flow toward growth, and occasionally transcend to new levels. This week, I want you to identify one area where you've become ice, where you've frozen into patterns that no longer serve you. Maybe it's your career. You've mastered your role, but there's no growth left. You're ice, solid, strong, but stuck in one shape. Maybe it's your relationships. You've settled into comfortable patterns, but there's no electricity, no evolution. Maybe it's your self-concept. You've built an identity. I'm not good at X. I'm the person who always Y. And now you're trapped inside it. Choose one area, just one, and ask yourself Bruce Lee's transformation questions. What form have I taken that I need to melt? What new form do I need to flow toward? What would it look like to transcend this entirely? Don't try to answer all three immediately. Sit with them. Let them work on you the way heat works on ice. And here's the most important thing. Transformation is not a one-time event. You will transform many times in your life. Each time, some part of you will resist. Each time, you'll be afraid of losing what you've become. But remember, water is never lost. It only changes form. Your essence remains. Your potential remains. Only the rigid patterns fall away. Bruce Lee transformed from a weak child to a martial artist, from a rigid traditionalist to an innovative philosopher, from a Hollywood reject to a global legend. But he was always Bruce Lee, always seeking truth, always expressing his authentic self. Just in different forms as life demanded, the same potential for transformation exists in you. Not because you need to become someone else, but because you need to become more fully yourself in whatever form the current moment requires. In the comments below, share one area where you've recognized you've become ice. Where have you solidified into patterns that no longer serve you? If this exploration resonated with you, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we're exploring the warrior's rest, why doing nothing might be your most productive practice. Until then, remember, transformation isn't about destroying who you are. It's about expressing who you are in the form that this moment requires. Be like water. Flow, freeze when you must, melt when it's time, and occasionally rise as vapor to heights you never imagined possible. The transformation begins now.